What's up everyone, and thank you for stopping by the channel. Today's project is this free LawnBoy mower, and the problem is that we don't know anything about it. Let's take a good look at it, find out what's wrong with it, and hopefully we can fix it. In this video, we try and repair this mower. However, it may not be the exact repair you need to make to yours. We'll explore other options later in the video. So this mower was given to me for free, and they felt it was time to pass it on to either a landfill or maybe to someone who could do something with it. Well, I think I can find a good home for it and hopefully working like it should. The first thing is to look over the mower and make sure it's all there. There doesn't seem to be any signs of serious damage, and it appears there's nothing missing, which is pretty good for a mower that's over a decade old. Next, I want to check the fluids in the engine, starting with the gas, and fortunately there's no gas in the tank we have to worry about. And as far as the oil goes, I had already drained it so I could power wash the underside of the deck, but there was oil in it, it just needed to be changed. If we tilt the mower on its side, we can inspect the blade for damage, and even though there are a few small gouges on the edge, they don't seem to be serious enough to have hurt the engine. I'll still remove the blade so I can put an edge back on it, and I'll keep looking for other possible issues. So I finally found some damage, and it's to this metal belt guard. It seems to have been hit by something and bent out of shape. I don't want the guard to make contact with the belt or the drive pulley, so I'll just bend it back into shape. And if I can't get it to the shape I want, I'll remove the guard and bend it back into shape on a workbench. After some bending and prying, I then turned the blade adapter to make sure that it and the belt weren't making contact with the guard, which it wasn't. I then sharpened the blade and installed it back on the blade adapter. Now, since the mower is on its side, I also want to take this opportunity to remove the wheels and put some lithium grease on the wheel bolts. This will make pushing the mower a lot easier. Of course, this part is optional, but I find it keeps the wheels from wearing on the bolts and less likely to become wobbly after years of use. You don't have to remove the wheels to do this, but it makes it more effective than just spraying the heads of the bolts with the wheels still on the mower. I'll also do the same for the rear wheels, but of course, since this is a self-propel, I'll also have to lubricate where the axles rotate as well. Unfortunately, this does not have a good outcome, as you'll see later on in the video. While I'm here, I'll also lubricate the height adjustment arms as well, because these can get rusted in place, making it tough to change the deck height. After everything is lubricated, I'll then replace the back plate for the wheels and then the wheels themselves. With the mower back on its wheels, it's now time to put some new oil into the engine and some fresh 100% gas with no ethanol in the tank. If you cannot get ethanol-free gas in your area, I would suggest draining the gas from your tank and running the engine dry before you put the mower up in storage for longer than a couple of months. This should keep your carburetor from having any issues. So unfortunately, the engine did not start, so that means we either have a spark or possibly a carburetor issue. The first thing I want to check is if we have spark, and for that I'm going to use my spark checker. You can find these online for just a few dollars. All you have to do is install it in line with a spark plug, pull the rope a few times, and watch for an orange glow in the tester. So we did have an orange glow in the tester, and that means we have a working ignition system. If you didn't see an orange glow in your tester, that means the ignition module might be bad, or your kill switch could still be grounded when it's not supposed to be. The next thing I want to do is try and prime the carburetor manually with gas. However, this is when I noticed a more obvious problem. Behind this piece of plastic is the carb's inlet and the choke flap. When the engine is cold, the flap is supposed to be closed, which will choke the carb and allow it to draw more fuel into the engine for cold starts. The flap will then open when the engine is running. As you can see, it's not closed, and in fact, it seems to stay in whatever position we move it to. That means we have a problem with the choke system, and that's why it wouldn't start. Just as a test, I'm going to close the flap and try starting it again. Unfortunately, the choke flap opened after the first pull, so the engine didn't start. That means we need to remove the air filter base and check to see why the flap isn't acting like it's supposed to. I'm still going to prime the carburetor manually and see if the engine starts and runs. So the engine struggled to start and run, but it cleaned up after a few seconds and it seemed to be running just fine. It appears we were able to clear a slight blockage that was forming inside the carburetor, so we definitely got lucky on that one. Next, remove the nuts and bolts holding the filter base to the engine. There will also be a spacer that's behind the bolt near the emissions tube, so don't lose it. So this is a vacuum-operated valve that will bypass the choke lever when the engine is running. It's connected to the lever on top of the carb for the choke flap. And this arm over here is connected to the thermostat on the muffler. Its job is to bypass the choke when the engine is hot because you don't need to choke the carb when the engine is at normal operating temperature. And this is the linkage that connects it to the same lever on top of the carb, and as you can see, it's not connected to it. It looks like it should just pin in a hole on top of the lever, but there's a problem. The lever seems to quite easily fall in and out of the hole in the lever, which it shouldn't do. The reason is because the linkage is in the wrong orientation. It shouldn't be pinned in on the outer part of the arm, but the inner part. To fix this, we'll have to remove the bracket holding the arm and reposition the linkage the right way. After removing the bracket, we can now push the arm through the hole from the bottom and then rotate it so that the inner part of the arm is making contact with the choke lever. Then we can put the other end of the linkage into the arm from the thermostat. This was the only way it would work for me, and I tried different ways, and there simply wasn't enough room to maneuver the linkage without taking off the bracket. Now that everything is back on the carburetor, we can now test the arm's movement, and as you can see, it's now moving the choke flap to the closed position because the engine is cold. There's also no way for the linkage to fall off the arm now. Once we've confirmed that everything is working like it should, we can now replace the filter base, the air filter, and the cover and try starting it again. Another reason why this mower might not be starting is that the choke flap is stuck in the open position. If the mower wasn't used for a long time and the carburetor had a slow fuel leak, it could gum up the pivot point for the choke flap. To fix this, just spray the pivot point with carb cleaner and let it soak. This should be enough to loosen the pivot and the choke should work once again. You might have to service the carburetor as well if it was stored for a long time with gas in the tank. So it started right up and ran extremely well, but unfortunately we have a new problem. The right drive wheel is stuck, it won't work while using self-propel, and it won't roll either. The worst part was that it was rolling just fine before we started lubricating the wheels, so something might have gotten jammed up on reinstallation. Unfortunately, we'll have to save that for another day, but at least we got it working again. So my question is, are LawnBoy mowers even worth fixing? I know there are a lot of people that just don't care for them for one reason or another, but I'm curious on how you feel about them. Personally, I think they're a decent mower. However, I'm partial to their older 2-cycle equipment because I used a 2-cycle mower as a kid to mow lawns with. However, to be exact, it was a Toro with a Suzuki engine, but they still sound the same to me. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions, and I hope to see you in the next video.